Hello YouTube and welcome into another part 0 video for our summer, now fall, Civ 6 series, the A&W Challenge. I am the Game Mechanic here with you as always, and we're talking about Philip today. And poor Philip, poor Spain, comes into the ranks really close to the bottom. Really just only outclassed by one other Civ as far as their mediocrity. And so let's talk about why. Philip is unfortunately one of those leaders that on paper and conceptually is really, really neat. I kind of love the idea of the Conquistador, the idea of the mission. This can be really, really strong. But because of certain aspects of the game, winds up being very, very inconsistent, which lowers basically everything for me. And then also kind of not very effective. He has a couple abilities that just kind of do the same thing. So let's talk about that. El Escorial. Inquisitors can remove hearsay in extra time. Okay, so that is bad. It could be good because it does something that I'm probably going to already do, but Inquisitors are so cheap and so efficient anyways. Giving them an extra charge is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And then you also give me the ability to convert cities freely to my religion through conquest with the Conquistador. So you're giving me two things that are kind of the same thing. And so that's not interesting. I mean, this is, I guess, a little more useful in a peaceful game, but really, I mean, Inquisitors are so cheap. Giving me an extra charge just feels like you don't care about me. So that's a bit unfortunate. It is something that you get for free, but boy howdy, like a couple Inquisitors and you're good throughout the game. So having an extra charge is just so insignificant. Combat units have a bonus of 4 combat strength against players following other religions. That can be very good. But if you're not founding your own religion, you're probably going to be converted by your nearest neighbor, therefore giving you not the combat strength. So do you see what, like, as we break these down, like, it's like, oh, well, I guess if I found a religion and I'm using conquistadors and I'm not so far behind that I'm irrelevant already, oh, cool, then 4 combat strength is nice, but it's situational combat strength still. And so that's just kind of awkward. Like, I kind of love the idea, but it's just not quite there functionally, specifically on a deity game. And you have to be majority religion to get Conquistador to work, and I believe it's the same thing with this combat strength. If you don't have a majority religion, then they're technically not found. Like, it's just weird. It's just weird the way that all that stuff works. So kind of bad. Conceptually cool, kind of bad. Treasure Fleet, on the other hand, can be amazing if the continent scripting works out in your favor. And boy, that if you've watched the series, that just doesn't happen that often. In a small game, there are 6 civs. Typically 4 or 5 of them spawn on one of the 3 continents. And so useless in that situation, particularly early on, which is when you want it to be kicked in. Now, if he had like a continent split bias somehow and could kind of always have a continent split, then I would feel 100% differently about this and this. But the fact is, if you're on a single continent, you don't have a lot of options for long trade routes internationally, then you're not really getting much out of this. But if you do have a continent split, you can get extra gold for international ones and extra food and production for internal ones. Trade routes are very, very good in Civ 6, and that continues to be true even with Rise and Fall. So if you can get it to work in your favor, it's awesome. But all too often, it just does nothing because you're not on a continent split. 2 loyalty for cities with a mission improvement adjacent to the city center. That can be a little tough to do because districts, and then not on your original continent. So you can get some extra loyalty with a mission, but the mission is so late in the game that 2 loyalty at that point should kind of be irrelevant. So it's, again, like on paper, awesome. And if I could have that continent split, awesome. It gets a decent ranking for me because in any game it can be really, really good, but it's just finding that continent split or the game where it's actually going to apply. So really high upside. Some games just not going to do anything for you. Not going to do anything for you. The Conquistador is a bummer of a unit. I, again, love the concept of it. If you go out of your way, you can have very strong Conquistadors up to like 90 strength. But guess what? On its own, it's a musket. Period. It's a musket. It's the exact same strength as a musket. So, great. I can pre-build muskets. I can pre-build this. I mean, that is a nice part of it, that you can pre-build it. Where it starts to get good is if you start pairing it with religious units. Now, that runs the risk of losing that religious unit, and therefore, like, if you lose that Conquistador, then you can lose that religious unit, and then, like, have anti-synergy as far as, like, spreading your faith goes. So you run a risk there, but 10 combat strength is quite a bit. And then if you happen to capture that city, or you have a Conquistador adjacent, you will automatically convert it to your religion. If you don't have a dominant religion, though, it doesn't do anything. We find that out in this game. Spoiler alert. Foolishly. But yeah, so I mean, this plus maybe the 4 combat strength is a pretty strong unit. But boy, you're really handcuffing me, because now I have to have the economy to build or upgrade Conquistadors, but I also have to have enough faith economy to send out some religious units with them. Otherwise, it's just a musket war, and at that point, just give me knights or cavalry, and I'm happier. So, really cool idea, really, really situational, and you really have to finagle and go out of your way to make this work. And what if you don't want to found a religion? It kind of says up there with Philip, like, in order to get advantage of any of these things, you have to be religious, and that's just kind of whatever. The mission can be quite strong if it's on a different continent. On its own, a tile improvement that gives you 2 faith and 2 science if adjacent to a campus district. Okay, so typically that's a 2 food, 2 science tile. I mean, I like that you can put them on hills. That's fine. But like, awkward if it's just that. I don't know. It's like fine, and it's also very, very late in the game to get it. So it's kind of like you're missing out on faith early on and stuff. But if it is on a different continent, then you can get a lot of faith generation. This does kind of come into play with maybe a tourism game if you're looking for national parks. But it doesn't do anything appeal-wise, but it would give you the faith for it. And then in a faith game, in a faith race, obviously having a bunch of late-game faith generation could be really, really strong. But that's only one victory type, and it's just kind of weird. In games where you see this work well, it can be really strong and fun, and you're going to see that here. But again, just something you really have to go out of your way to work. So poor Philip, just not all that interesting. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, can form fleets and armadas earlier than usual. That's cool for a naval game, but none of the rest of this is. So he's not a particularly strong naval civ. If you gave your fleets and armies a little extra combat strength, like a Shaka type ability, then I'd start to think about it. But on its own, just meh. So, all right. So I think I talked about everything. There you go. If they could fix continent scripting and allow these things to work more consistently, he would skyrocket up a handful of slots at the very least. But in the current state of map scripting and things like that, kind of a bummer. But that being said, this is a very fun game, and I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to stop by twitch.tv/GameMechanic. Come say hi to us in person on the internet. And thank you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. Thanks for subscribing. And thanks for being your beautiful selves. I'll see you next time.